everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. This is episode 19 of our Stitch Gallery and Glossary, and today we are going to be learning the puff stitch. The stitch is super fluffy and wonderful, and although it is kind of a yarn eater, the final outcome is absolutely stunning, and I actually used this stitch in the ColourPop baby blanket, and it turned out so precious, so make sure you check out the ColourPop baby blanket. The yarn you're going to need is cotton yarn, or any type of yarn really. I'm using cotton yarn today in the swatch. You can practice swatches with cotton yarn or any acrylic yarn or any yarn that you'd like. A big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing this yarn today. This is called Creme de la Creme. It is 100% cotton, and I'm just going to be using this fabulous cotton yarn in this tutorial, but you can use any yarn you want. I'm going to use a G hook today. This fancy hook I got from the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy. It is super wonderful, and there are different types of designs or different hooks. They are all hand carved, ergonomic style, so they fit in the palm of your hand, and doesn't matter what size hands you have or where you're from in the world, they have international shipping, and you can crochet using your hook like a pen, or using your hook like holding a knife, or if you're left-handed even, they have, this one's not a left-handed hook, but they have left-handed hooks available. So make sure you check out the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy, and you can get a freshly carved ergonomic crochet hook. Now I have already crocheted a row. Now there is no specific stitch count for puff stitches, so you can just start wherever. I just made a row of an odd number here. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So I actually chained 12 and then single crocheted in the second chain from the hook and across. So I have 12 or I have 11 stitches across here. I just made a single crochet row because I'm just going to show you how to do the stitch. It's not really a stitch count type of stitch to do. So I'm going to just show you how to do the actual stitch. In this first stitch, I'm just going to single crochet, and then I'm going to start with my puff stitch. So a puff stitch, you're going to yarn over the hook, then go into the specific stitch, okay, that the pattern you're reading or doing tells you to go into. Then yarn over again and pull that through. Just hook that yarn and pull it through, and kind of pull that up a little bit, just like that. And then we're going to yarn over again and go into the same stitch, and then yarn over again and pull through. And now you should have 5 loops on your hook. Okay, pull that up a little bit more. There we go. So they're all the same height. We're going to do that again. Yarn over and go back into the same stitch, then yarn over and pull it through, and again pull up, so that they are all the same height. So you should have 7 loops on your hook, and sometimes you can do a 9 loop puff, which is extra puffy. So yarn over, go back in, then yarn over and pull through and pull up. So now you should have 9 loops on your hook. Depending on what pattern you're doing, you could have 7 or 9 loops on your hook. And some have small puffs, which are just 5 loops. But you just have to keep yarning over and going into the stitch, and then yarn over and pull through, and it will add 2 more loops every time. Okay, so I have 9 loops on my hook here. Once you have all the loops that you need, you're going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops, just like that. And there's your stitch. Now to close this stitch, to secure all those loops, we're going to chain 1. So yarn over and pull through. And that is a puff stitch right there. It's nice and puffy on both sides, and it's very fluffy, and when you have a project with all puff stitches, it is absolutely just thick and warm and so lovely. So in the pattern that you're working with, depending on what the pattern says, some of them say to, stitch in the next stitch or skip the next stitch. That's depending on what pattern you're working with. I'm just going to single crochet in the next stitch. And when you single crochet in the next stitch, it really pops out. You can see the 3D look of it. Similar to almost like a popcorn stitch, except it's not. It's a puff. So I'll show you again in this next stitch right here. We are going to puff stitch. Okay, so yarn over, whoopsie, there we go, yarn over, go into the stitch right here, yarn over and pull through and pull up. Okay, so that's all the same height. Yarn over again and then go back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through, pull up, yarn over, go back in, yarn over, pull through and pull up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more time, yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull through, and pull up. So we have 9 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 of those loops, and then chain 1 to close it. And there's your puff stitch. Okay, and then we're just going to single crochet in the next stitch. And that's a puff stitch. Very simple stitch to do once you get the hang of it. So you always have to yarn over first and then go into the stitch and then yarn over and pull through. And just keep yarning over, going in, yarn over, pull through until you have your 9 loops on the hook. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yarn over, pull through all 9 and then chain 1 to close it. And there's a puff. And then I just like to single crochet in the next stitch because once you do a shorter stitch next to the puff stitch, it really pops it out. You can see the 3D look of it. It just looks really cool. So that's a super fun stitch to do. In some cases, a puff stitch will be followed by a double crochet, or in some cases a half double crochet, or in some cases you'll skip a stitch and then just puff stitch in the next stitch. So it's really, I mean, whatever the pattern you're reading or doing calls for is really what you'll have to do. But that's a puff stitch, just yarn over and going in. Oops, I'm going to make a single crochet in this stitch here. There we go. So yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull through. We're going to do that 4 times. So that was 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. And then you should have 9 stitches or 9 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 9, and then chain 1. And I'm just going to single crochet in this last stitch. So you can practice, you know, making your puff stitches so that they are all, you know, the same height and the loops. That's the hard part, is the tension. Let me chain 1 and turn my work here. And then you can work in between this puff stitches or into the puff stitches or opposite. So now in this stitch here, I'm going to do a puff stitch starting. So you can do alternating. Okay, so you can make a scarf even and alternate your stitches. So puff stitches into the single crochets from the previous row. This is actually a good idea. I think I have a pattern coming on. And then just single crochet into the puff stitch and ignore the chain 1. So this is the chain 1 here. So I'm going to go into the stitch itself for a single crochet. And then in the single crochet stitch, I'm going to just puff stitch. Wow, that's easy. So this is a super simple pattern, or super simple stitch once you get the hang of, you know, making your tension correctly on that puff stitch there. But that's super simple how you do the puff stitch. So thank you for watching, everyone. Check out my other episodes of the Stitch Gallery and Glossary. Until next time, happy hooking!